Welcome back to video number 2 on class advocacy. When we left off on our previous video, if I can get to the correct slide, we were discussing this concept of how a society addresses social issues based on what they perceive as the cause or the reason for the social problem. And again, the reality that we cannot intercede in one area of life without it ultimately impacting every other aspect of life. If we haven't learned anything else through this recent pandemic, this current pandemic experience, it is the impact of how an invisible virus that is really just a medical slash public health issue has ultimately impacted basically every aspect of everyone's lives throughout our communities and our country at large. So we're going to move on now and look at the four major avenues of class advocacy. Again, these endeavors that take place with and on behalf of a community. Now, again, I want to remind you that in our definition of community, it may not just be, in fact, it rarely is, although it can be, a geographic region. A community can be a group of people who share common experiences, common concerns, common problems, you name it. If you look at the Americans with Disabilities Act, that piece of legislation impacts everyone again, but it primarily impacts the community of people who have specific mobility, intellectual, emotional, and or behavioral challenges that they're living with as they are participating in and being members of a physical community, be it St. Peters, Missouri, or the state of Missouri, United States of America. So again, just remember that we use, as professional human service practitioners, we use a much broader definition of community than what would traditionally be used by civilians. So there, again, the four major ways that class advocacy takes place is through outreach, prevention, advocacy, and policy making. Each one of these activities often is occurring both I can't even say the word right, sequentially and concurrently with each other. But in general, outreach tends to be one of the first endeavors that take place, and that is simply to build an infrastructure of communication and to determine interest and investment of a given community. So there needs to be some preliminary effort, much like you would maybe recruit clients or build a group of clients for those types of interventions. You also need to build and create that a community that can communicate and function in some kind of unity. Again, we're going through this very quickly. At some point, you will probably, if you continue with your education, take entire courses that focus on nothing but this level of intervention. Prevention is a huge part often of class advocacy, and that's actually a topic we're going to come back to and spend more time on Thursday, so I'm going to skip right over it today. Advocacy then are all of those various activities, again, whether we are doing the advocacy ourselves or supporting, educating, encouraging the actual members of a given community to advocate for themselves. and then that results almost always in some kind of policy making change, legislation, whether it be at the local, the state, the federal, and again now international level. Uh, when we look at issues like human trafficking now, that really has to be addressed throughout the entire spectrum. Um, if that issue is going to be adequately addressed and the members of that community most properly served. Can't believe I'm out of time on this video. I'm going to go ahead and stop this one. We'll have one more that will wrap this discussion up.